standard service account. And I hate you, and I hate Kali, and I want you all to be hacked by hackers and all your passwords to be stolen. I am a group managed service account, and I am all that is good and righteous in this world, and I will protect you because I love you and I love Carly.
In this video, we're going to take a look at creating group managed service accounts. Now, there are managed service accounts that would be for a single workstation or server, and there are group managed service accounts that utilize a global security group to enable a group managed or to enable a managed security account to be used on multiple hosts or multiple servers through the use of that global security group. But anyway, what are the advantages of using a GMSA, a group managed security account, over a standard service account? And the answer to that there are actually many advantages that you would gain. So first off, if you're using a service account, and let me try to make a point here, so we'll just use Notepad. All right, so first off, one point is there is no password management, okay? And let me make that a little bigger here. Try to save some time. All right, so no password management. If you're using a standard service account, you're going to have to periodically change that password from time to time. And if you're using it on multiple servers, then that means that you're going to have to, update that password on every server. And you might forget something. You might miss something. Plus, it's a hassle. You might forget the password. You might have to change it all over again. So if you don't have to worry about managing and changing the password, if Active Directory can take care of that for you, then that's a really good advantage all by itself, right? Another thing that you can do with a group managed service account that you can't do with just an MSA or managed service account is it supports sharing across multiple hosts, okay? So it uses a GSG, a global security group. You add the computer accounts as objects to that GSG, and then that GSG becomes the security principal that can authenticate with the GMSA, the group managed service account. So instead of only being able to use it on one host or one server like an MSA, you can use it on multiple hosts, multiple computers, multiple servers. So that's another key advantage. Another advantage, you can use it to run scheduled tasks, okay? Simple managed service accounts and are just service accounts by themselves even. Let me pull that out there in my notes. But do not support running scheduled tasks. Not completely. You can do some things, but there are some things that don't work right or don't work properly with a standard service account when running a scheduled task. However, you can overcome some of those limitations by using a GMSA. Okay, it's more secure because it uses the key distribution service, the KDC, to create and manage the passwords. Okay, and because it does that, I don't know if this will be the same, but I'll say it's point number 5. It stores the key in AD. It's not stored in the registry like a normal service account. That is a security risk, potentially, right? I mean, if a user can escalate privileges and get into the local machine to where they can access the registry hive, then potentially they could get LSA secrets and get the password of a standard service account because it's stored in the registry hive. But with a group managed service account, they couldn't do that. It wouldn't matter. They would just get gobbledygook. It'd be nothing to get, okay? So in that way, it is more secure. It is safer. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So to illustrate this point, let's open a command prompt with administrative privileges, right? Run as administrator. And notice administrator, right? So I have administrative privileges. And I'm going to add a dummy service, just a blank service to show you something. So I'm going to use the command sc create, and Carly is a unicorn. All right. That'll be the name of my dummy or blank service. And bin path, and it's gonna be C. Windows, we'll use something built in, which we can't even run as a service, but that's okay. We don't need to run it. We just need an executable to point to, so I can show you where the password is stored. Notepad is built into Windows, so we'll use a notepad. All right, so we've created a service, a blank service, and I'm just gonna right-click the Windows icon, run. I'm gonna type in services, MSC. So I want to show you that this service has been added. Well, let's go down to the C's, and here we have Carly is a unicorn, okay? And what is Carly as a unicorn? It's a local system account by default, no dependencies, recovery, but basically, in this case, we would want to start Notepad as a service, which we can't do and we don't need to, because what I really want to do is show you where the password is going to be stored for this. If I were to use a service account, NAD, okay? So let's say that I want to use a service account, and I'm going to let me search Active Directory, and who's my service account gonna be? Why not Twilight Sparkle, not Carkle, Sparkle. Okay, so Twilight Sparkle would be my service account, and I have to enter her password. If she were my service account. Okay. Alright, so notice it says Twilight Sparkle BattleStars has been granted the logon as a service rate. Has to, in order to be used to run the service, okay? And let's say I was just going to make this automatic for whatever reason, okay? All right, so now we can, now that password is set there, okay? And that's my service. And so we're going to do something here. I have some tools, and you can download these from the internet. They're just tools that anybody can download. I'm going to go to my tools directory. And the first thing I want to do is run this psexec tool from PS Tools. Look at the result of who am I, all right? I'm Starbuck from the domain BattleStars, okay? So I'm an Active Directory user, and she's a domain admin. So that's who I am right now, okay? Starbuck, that's not who I need to be. So I'm gonna run this command, psexec.exe, okay? And I wanna add, basically, I want to add a few switches to this command. Actually, hold that thought before we do that. I wanted to show you one more thing. Regedit. All right. So I've opened regedit, and if I were to go to HKey local machine, and the security hive, look, I have special permissions. The system can read it, but as far as local administrators, as far as me, I don't have permission to access the contents of this hive as it stands by default, and that's for a good reason. All right, so what this psexec tool is going to do, I want to stop being BattleStars Starbuck, right? That's who I am now. So with psexec, I'm going to use a couple of switches, -s, and that just will cause it to run as local system. So I want to change the value of who am I from BattleStars Starbuck, an Active Directory domain admin account, to the local system account, which actually has permission to read the security registry hive. And this is the vulnerability here. I'm going to use the -i option to make it interactive, and I'm going to use the -d to run it in a separate window, okay? So SID, or SID to remember, and then I want to open another command prompt, cmd.exe, with my psexec tool. So remember, I'm Starbuck BattleStars right now. All right, I'm going to go ahead and run my psexec with these switches. Click agree, and now it opens a new command prompt. And I'll leave these different colors. I'll leave this in the default color so you can tell, but change directory. Now, if I type who am I, look who I am now. NT Authority System. So I'm no longer running, this console was under BattleStars Starbuck, but this console is under NT Authority System, right? And then if I do this, okay, so now I'm going to go and I want to go into my tools directory, and there is another tool that I downloaded. It's a free tool. It's called cqsecuresecretsdump.exe, okay? And that's from, secure, CQUER, I think it is, but just Google it and you'll find it. So cqsecuresecretsdump.exe, okay? And let's see, the service, and I gotta remember the name. What do we call the service? Was it Carly is Unicorn? What did we call her? Carly is Unicorn. That was the name of the service. Okay. Alrighty then. Carly is Unicorn. Okay. So cqsecuresecretsdump.service, and then the service name, which is Carly is Unicorn. Okay, and it was successful for that service. This is Twilight Sparkle's super top secret password. You would have never guessed that in a million years, would you? No, never. Not capital P @ SSW0D. That's the best password ever. Ha ha ha. Just kidding. Okay, but so that shows you how vulnerable, just using LSA secrets and, using the psexec tool to escalate my privileges and log in as NT Authority System. Now I can get into or break into the security hive in the registry, and then using cqsecuresecretsdump, I can actually get the password. So that's a pretty blatant, terrible security vulnerability right there, is it not? So what can we do? The first thing I want to do to create a GMSA is open a PowerShell prompt. In this case, I'm going to use ICE because it's way more convenient, and I'm going to run it as administrator. And I have a script here where I've saved all of the steps, and I'm going to go to the root directory to give us some console screen real estate. All right. So the first thing we want to do is create an organizational unit. And we're just going to use New-ADOrganizationalUnit, GMSAs. I already have a parent OU called service threads for service accounts, and then the domain is BattleStars and Fleet. So let's go ahead and run that selection of code, and we've created our OU there. Next, I'm going to create a global security group, a GSG. I'm going to call it GMSA Cylon Users. So I'm going to use the commandlet New-ADGroup. The name or alias is going to be GMSA Cylon Users, as well as the SamAccountName. It's going to be of type security and global, so a GSG. DisplayName will be the same. It could be different, but we'll keep it simple and consistent and keep it the same. And it's going to be in my new child OU, GMSAs, and my parent OU, service droids, and BattleStars Fleet. That's the LDAP string. And the description is GSG with access to GMSA Cylon users. Okay? And I don't know why I got the typo there. That should be an underscore there. GMSA Cylon user. Doesn't matter. It's just a description, and it could be supercalifragilistic or totally different, and it wouldn't have been a syntax error. But I don't want it to be confusing. I want to try to keep it consistent. So I modified the description string to match the actual alias and SamAccountName there. All right, so we want to make the group. So let's run these lines of code together to create that GSG. All right, so we've made that GSG an Active Directory. Now that we have a global security group and we have a child OU to hold it in, we need to add members, right, users to our group. So that's what we're going to do here with add-AD group member. And the path is GMSA silent users. That's, the GSG name up here, GMSA silent users, right? That's our global security group. Our child OU, our parent OU, and our domain. So in LDAP format, or LDAP string. And the members are going to be Mail 2019 Core-01, Galactica, and Twilight 1. Names of servers or computer objects in Active Directory. Notice that unlike a user account, which you would just add in without the dollar string, in this case I add the dollar symbol or the string symbol after each of these objects to designate that they are computers, okay? So that differentiates them from standard user accounts and means they're computer accounts because of that little string symbol or dollar sign that they are postfixed with. So I'm going to go ahead and run this step and we'll add them to the group. Okay, so they've been added to the group. Now, let's take a brief pause and go over to our domain controller and look at ADUC, Active Directory Users and Computers. So in ADUC, if I look at service droids, here's my child OU, and then here's my GSG, my global security group, right? And here are my members. Galactica, Mail 2019 Core-01, and Twilight 1. So everything looks good there and is prepared. Now we're ready to move on. Back on my Windows 10 Management Workstation, now we're ready for step 4. And step 4, there's a couple of ways we can do this. Okay, the normal way is going to be this way. Add KDS root key effective immediately. But that normal way, that could take up to 10 hours to replicate. So that could take a long time. And you want to do that in a production environment. You don't want to tinker around or mess with replication. So in a production environment, you'd want to do this. But because this is a test environment and it's all snapshotted, I don't mind if I tear it up. I can experiment. It's a sandbox. It's a whole playground. So because of that, I'm going to do this, which is not a recommended practice, but we're going to cheat and subtract 10 hours from the current time stamp. So we're going to try to force it immediately, right? So we're going to run this line of code here. Okay, notice when I do run add KDS root key and I force it, it gives me a globally unique identifier, a GUID, okay? And I will need that. So that GUID, that GUID, globally unique identifier, if I now run this test KDS root key, I can test my key. Okay, there, now it's true. Okay, so everything's good. So now we're ready for step 6. We're actually ready to create our GMSA, our Group Managed Service Account. So I've broken things down into variables here to hopefully make them easier to digest and understand. The Group Managed Service Account name itself is going to be GMSA _AD _Cylons. The GMSA group, GMSA Cylon users, that's the GSG we created up here already, okay? If I wanted to, matter of fact, if I ran all that code at once, I wouldn't even have to redefine it here. But since I'm highlighting and running different blocks, I have to redefine it. And then the FQDN, which is going to be the name here. Oops, actually, let me change that. I need to change that. So it's going to be the fully qualified domain name, or FQDN, is going to be the name of the Group Managed Service Account, and then the domain, right? So these 3 variables, I could have hard-coded these down here in line, but I didn't want to. I wanted to make them variables so that they are more transparent, easier to understand, easier to see, easier to digest, okay? Now, I'm going to take GMSA servers, which is a variable which will act as an array to hold all of the members of the group, GMSA group, right? And that's these computer objects that we added to the group up here, okay? So I'm going to, for each of them, excuse me, I'm going to get AD group member. I'm going to get those 3 objects, right? And I'm going to select an object expand property name. So I'm going to return the name, all right, of that computer object, a handle, right? The principal or property by which I can access that computer object. And I'll store that in this array, GMSA servers. Then I'm going to create another array because I don't need the name property. I need to drill down and get something other than that name property. I have the name property, but then what I'm going to do is for each object, I'm going to call getADComputer, and I'm going to get the identity. All right, remember the string symbol and the underscore, that just, that's whatever element the current element is in the array. If that were a real for loop or a for each loop, we'd be using the dot operator and the subscript value of the array element or the index element. Check out that video on arrays if you guys want to learn more about arrays and things. But so that's all we're doing here. So we're using this collection, this array, to then turn around and get the identity property of each computer object and store it here. And now with that collection of identities, that collection of IDs, we have everything we need to use the New-AD service account commandlet. So what's the name, the alias? GMSA name, that's GMSA AD silence. Okay? And the same for the display name, but we don't have to. We could call the display name supercalifragilisticexpialidocious if we wanted to. I don't want to spell it, but we could call it that if we wanted to. But to make things less confusing and easier to understand and digest, we're going to keep it simple, right? So I'm going to make this consistent all the way, even though this could be a different value, I'm going to keep it the same all the way through, okay? And then what is the description? AD managed service account for Cylon servers. And then GMSA server IDs, those are the IDs we've retrieved from the array of server objects we retrieved from our global security group up here, okay? And then finally, the fully qualified domain name or group managed service account FQDN right here, that's this variable, okay? So all this code needs to be run at one time. So let's go ahead and run this code, and we will create or generate our group managed service account. Okay, and everything looks good so far. But let's test it and be sure. So we're going to use getAD service account, and we'll plug in the name. And okay, so it's enabled, true, and it has a SID. It exists in Active Directory. It is where we expect it to be, lightweight directory access protocol-wise or LDOT-wise. So we're all good there. Now, the next step, all of that has to either be done on a domain controller or where we're connected to a domain controller and we can import the Active Directory module. Now I'm on a Windows 10 management workstation, but I've imported the Active Directory module already and set that up so I can run. I don't have to sign into my domain controller. I can do it. I can either create a remote shell or I can actually do it natively because I've already imported that module. But if you hadn't done that, you'd need to do that, and so the commands you'd want to run would be AD Windows feature rset AD PowerShell and import module Active Directory, and not just on the on the workstation where you're creating the GMSA, but also if you need to on the servers where you're installing the GMSA, okay, the group managed service account. All right, so this exists in AD. Now let's look at installing it on a few different servers. All right. So what I want to do is I want to log on to the server that I'm going to install it on, and I want to run this. And even though I'm running this, in Active Directory, I'm actually on a Windows 10 workstation, and so I want to use it on this workstation. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll copy and paste this code here, and I have the name, all right, and so I've installed it on this local machine here. And if I wanted to test it, true, all right, so now the account is installed. It can be used. Likewise, if I wanted to, let's go over to our Exchange server. So over here, we're on our core file server and Exchange server. Right, hostname mailcore, and I'm signed in as Starbuck. And I'm gonna go ahead and launch PowerShell. And let's make sure I'm connected to AD. Alright, so I'm connected to AD, so I don't need to import the Active Directory module. And then what I want to do to install that GMSA on this machine, install dash and then AD service account. Install AD service account and identity. I have a hard time. I don't know why I have such a hard time spelling that. I get the characters crossed in my mind. And then GMSA underscore AD underscore silence, I believe was the name of our group managed service account. Okay. And then to test it, let's do test AD service account and GMSA AD silence. It was the same, not GNSA. GMSA. Alright, and it returns true. So it's installed there. And let's go back to our Windows 10 workstation. And we're going to close, actually, yeah, we'll close it for now. So let's test our GMSA out now. I'm going to open a command prompt with administrative privileges again. And I'm going to create another service. Just using the sc command, create, and what do I want to call this? Rainbows and butterflies. If I remember how to, alright. Okay, and again, we'll just make it a dummy service. So bin path equals C Windows Notepad.exe, which we can't run as a service, but we don't need to. We just need to show how the password is stored. Alright. And if I right click on the Windows and run and open services.msc. Alright, so here is the old Carly is a unicorn with the password still stored in the system registry. But let's go look at rainbows and butterflies, okay? And I'm going to go to logon. I'm going to say this account. I need to, let me clear out the password field here. Click on browse under locations. I want to select my domain. I'm going to say advanced, find, and I'm going to go down to the G's. Here's our group managed service account, GMSA underscore AD underscore silence. So I'm going to add it. I'm going to click on OK. All right. And I'm going to click on OK without typing in a password. Oh, and also notice that it adds this little string because it's a GMSA and not a normal service account. Okay, you see that? So I click on OK. Now watch this. If I open this task and look at logon, it's grayed out. I can't change it now because the password's not stored in the registry and I don't manage it. Active Directory does. So I can't change it for that service anymore. Okay. So let's close our services and let's try our same exploit. All right, we're going to use our same tools. And let's see, dir, go up here some. All right, so we're going to use psexec.exe. And remember it was sid-s-i-d for interactive and to open another window. cmd.exe. Ah, crikey. I forgot. Remember who I am? Let me do who am I first, right? Remember, I'm signed in. My credentials are Active Directory account and Starbucks. She's a domain admin, but she does not have permission at this point to access the registry hive, the security hive in the registry, right? So that's why we need the psexec tool. So that's who I am now, but watch who I am after we run the tool. Okay. Command prompt in a different color. And now, look. Oh, sure if I spell it right. Now look who I am, or however you say that grammatically, or I have no idea, but look who I am, NT Authority system. Okay, so now I do have access to the security hive and the registry. And so I'm going to cd to tools, and or just move that up a little bit. And our tool is cqsecuresecretsdump.exe. And the service argument, oh my gosh, what was it? Was it rainbows and butterflies? So that's always in my brain. Okay, look. And here we go. See, notice that the value is null. So in the first example, because it was stored in the registry, we could hack it using LSA secrets and using this tool, cqsecuresecretsdump and psexec. But in this example, the GMSA, it's totally secure because I can't get the password. I don't know the password. I never assigned it a password. Active Directory did, and it's stored in AD and not the registry. So that's just one of many advantages for a GMSA if you run SQL Server or different services with it, or Task Manager. And we'll probably make another video about this in the future, but this is just sort of an introduction to Group Managed Service Accounts, or GMSAs.